Hello again. I'm Dr. Scott Davis. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Famous Addictions That Changed History. In each one of these, I take you through a brief journey of how addiction to drugs drove a famous person, good or bad, living or dead, to not only change their life, but ultimately the course of history. Addiction, of course, we know is a devastating disease to fall prey to, no matter who you are. Rich or poor, famous or not, the disease of addiction does not discriminate. Famous people are often seen as invincible and untouchable, but they too suffer from addiction. We know there have been countless figures who have battled with addiction throughout their lives. Many went on to influence society in one way through their work, good or bad. In each of these episodes, we explore the captivating story of another important person in history who struggled with addiction, how it changed many lives around them, and history in the process. Our next famous subject today is the late music legend and quote-unquote king of pop, Michael Jackson. So to start, Michael Jackson was, without a doubt, a musical genius, a global icon, and a pop culture phenomenon. But his life was also marked and marred by tragedy and addiction. In this podcast, we explore the life of Michael Jackson, his struggles with addiction and substance abuse, and how they impacted his career and legacy and music history. Michael Jackson's childhood was far from normal. Born in Gary, Indiana, to an African-American family of 9 children, he experienced poverty and neglect from an early age. His father, Joseph, was an abusive taskmaster who pushed him hard to become a star performer at an early age, including physical abuse in the process. As part of the Jackson 5 group, Michael became a child star and the front man for this famous group at just 11 years old. The pressures of fame took their toll on young Michael as he entered adulthood. He became increasingly dependent on drugs to cope with the stress of performing in front of thousands of people every night at such a young age. He developed addictions to opioids such as Vicodin and Demerol, as well as sedatives like Valium and Xanax. These drugs were prescribed by doctors for medical procedures related to scalp injuries suffered in a fire or after cosmetic surgeries. But it's believed that he misused them for recreational purposes too. Michael Jackson was one of the most influential musicians of all time, and his impact on music and pop culture is undeniable. But what many people don't know is how he struggled with addiction throughout his career. Michael's addiction to prescription drugs began in the early 1990s when he was dealing with chronic pain from the scalp injury sustained during a fire while filming a Pepsi Cola commercial. This caused several severe burns to his face and scalp. He required multiple cosmetic surgeries to repair these. He became increasingly reliant on opioids and sedatives to cope with the pain, leading to an addiction that would last until his death in 2009. The effect of Michael's addiction were far-reaching, impacting both his personal life and professional career. His reliance on drugs led to erratic behavior, including missing rehearsals for concerts and other engagements. This caused tension between him and those close to him, as well as a decline in public opinion towards him. It also had a major effect on his music. While some of his later works were critically acclaimed, they lacked the energy and passion of his earlier work due to the influence of drugs on his creativity. The impact of Michael Jackson's addiction extends beyond just himself. It has shaped our understanding of addiction in general, as well as how we view celebrities who struggle with substance abuse issues. His story serves as a reminder that even those who have achieved greatness and great success can still be vulnerable to the dangers of drug use. It also highlights the importance of recognizing signs of addiction early on so that people can get help before it becomes too late. Ultimately, Michael Jackson's legacy will always be remembered for its immense contribution to music history and culture. But it's important to remember that behind this legacy lies a cautionary tale about the risks associated with drug use, a lesson that should not be forgotten or taken lightly. The public perception of Michael's drug use shifted over time, from being seen as something that could be managed with professional help to being viewed as an out-of-control problem that needed urgent intervention. This shift in attitude was reflected in the media coverage surrounding him, from stories about his eccentric behavior to reports about his failing health due to addiction-related illnesses, such as insomnia, depression, anxiety, paranoia, and weight loss. The impact of Michael's addiction on his creative process is difficult to measure, but it had some effect on his music output during this period. His albums released during this time were not as successful commercially or critically compared to those released earlier in his career when he was relatively free from drugs. Michael Jackson's addiction to prescription drugs was a major factor in his untimely death on June 25, 2009. His personal physician, Conrad Murray, was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter for administering the fatal dose of propofol that caused Jackson's death. Jackson had been using various opioids and sedatives for years to cope with chronic pain from scalp injuries and cosmetic surgeries. The impact of Michael Jackson's death on the music world was tremendous. He had been one of the most successful and influential artists of all time, and his sudden passing left fans around the world in shock. His legacy lives on through his music, which continues to inspire generations of musicians and fans alike. Michael's death in 2009 brought the conversation around addiction into sharp focus, particularly among young people who idolized him growing up. It highlighted the importance of addressing addiction before it spirals out of control, both for individuals suffering with substance abuse issues themselves and those close to them who can provide support or seek professional help if needed. It also showed how important it is for society at large to have compassion for those suffering from addiction rather than judging them harshly or writing them off completely because of their condition. In conclusion, Michael Jackson's life story serves as a cautionary tale around the dangers of drug misuse and its potential consequences if left unchecked or untreated properly. But it also highlights the power of artistry even in times of great adversity or pain. His influence lives on through his music, which continues to inspire generations today, reminding us all that there is hope, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable odds or challenges such as addiction or mental health issues. It is always important to note that these individuals' addictions do not diminish their accomplishments and contributions to society and history. In fact, as we see, ironically, sometimes the effects of their addictions have had profound consequences for their work. Their stories, though, serve as reminders of the complex relationship between addiction and innovation, as well as the need for greater awareness and support for those struggling with addiction. Please remember, if you or someone you know has a problem with drug addiction, please click on the link to my website or go to scottdavismd.com to work with you or someone you care about to find a path back to recovery and a better life. Please subscribe to this podcast and you'll be immediately notified of new episodes. As a subscriber, you would also be entitled to exclusive podcast episodes for subscribers only and other bonus features. Please join me again on this channel to explore how the addictions of yet another famous person would ultimately change the course of history. I'm Dr. Scott Davis, and thanks again for joining.